Okay, everybody. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Sports Card Madness. This is LZ, and as always, I'm here with Nick. And today we have a really interesting guest. We have Doug Plagans, radio play-by-play announcer for the NHL's Florida Panthers. Doug, it is great to have you on. We've kind of become, let's call it like Instagram friends, going back and forth with different questions. And, you've been providing some great feedback for Nick and I just on the podcast and all that. So happy to have you on. Welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me, and thanks for the content. And like I said, I'm on the road a lot, especially during the hockey season. So I'm always looking for stuff to download, stuff to listen to, and the more sports card content I can find, the better. So that's how I stumbled across your podcast, and I appreciate the good work and everything from you guys. So keep it up.
Great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's always great when we find guests who just have an interesting background but are also into cards. So when we started chatting and I found out about your background, I'm like, we got to have Doug on. So really appreciate the time. This is going to be a good conversation.
Definitely. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
psyched. So, Doug, what led you down the path that made you become an announcer in the NHL? Like,
Well, I
how did this
guess
start?
Yeah, to give you I guess, the nuts and bolts, kind of the bullet point summary version of this. Like a lot of kids, I loved sports. First thing I ever wanted to be professionally was a weatherman when I was like 6 years old, but I didn't love science as time went on. But I could sit in front of a TV and be entertained by any sporting event, didn't matter what it was. And I was also interested in the presentation of the whole thing, whether it was on radio, on TV, and I just grew to love sports as time went on. Really took an interest in the whole broadcast thing. So when I went to school, that was when I went to college. That was something I was really interested in pursuing. And I went to Lake Forest College, small school outside Chicago, had a campus radio station, had NCAA D3 athletics. By that point, I had retired from my athletic pursuits and taken my talents to the broadcast booth, and I had a chance to dabble in radio on the campus station. That was where I just was able to kind of grow my craft and kind of just hone my skills. And it was a great place to be able to do that. I had a chance to call hockey and football play by play for a couple of seasons before I graduated. I went to Syracuse, got a master's right out of there in broadcast journalism, interned for the Syracuse Crunch of the American Hockey League, was able to build a demo reel. And then right out of school, it would have been the fall of 2008, got my first professional job with the Idaho Steelheads in the ECHL, which would be the AA affiliate of the Dallas Stars. And that was where things took off. And now I'm in my 16th year of pro hockey, my 9th year here with the Panthers in the National Hockey League. It's been every bit the dream come true that I hoped it would be. And growing up in Michigan, just outside Detroit, hockey was it's kind of in your blood when you come from that part of the country. And growing up as a kid in the 90s, it was obviously a pretty good time to be a Detroit Red Wings fan. And people always ask me, you work for the Panthers. Did you root for the Red Wings growing up? Yeah, I rooted for the Red Wings growing up. I was from Detroit. I was a kid growing up in Michigan. The team was loaded with Hall of Famers. They were winning cups every couple of years. It was a great time to be a fan. And those teams were what really helped build my love for the sport. And I guess I would take it one step further and say, but when you start working for a team and you are with them every single day, home and road, doesn't matter if it's at the NHL level or in the minor leagues, and you're around these guys every single day, you see the work that they're putting in, whether it's a game day or a practice day. Your level of emotional investment at that point goes beyond anything that you ever felt as a fan. So for me, yeah, those Red Wings teams in the 90s, that's what helped me love the sport. But absolutely, now it's Panthers through and through, as I'm in my 9th year now with the Florida Panthers here in sunny South Florida.
I love it. What a cool story. What a cool story. Good for you. I didn't realize you've been an announcer that long. Kudos.
Doug, did you say was it 19 years? How many
16
years?
years in pro
16.
hockey. The Panthers, I was so funny story. People always ask, and it's kind of like the craziest thing, but one of the best things about our industry is that you could take me and everybody else in the National Hockey League who's a play-by-play announcer, every single person has a different path for kind of how they got to where they are. There's not a set science, if you will. If you do this, then you'll do this, then this will happen. It doesn't always work that way. So I was in the ECHL. I did 4 seasons in the American Hockey League with the Lake Erie Monsters, now the Cleveland Monsters, before I came here. And I was actually on the sidelines when I was in Cleveland. We had an arena football team as well. The Cavaliers owned the AHL team, so we played in the same arena that the Cavs do. And during my first season in Cleveland, found out that Dan Gilbert and the ownership group had acquired the Cleveland Gladiators of the Arena Football League. And anybody who remembers the Arena Football League, it was a really entertaining sport. It was a lot of fun. And the way the seasons went in the AFL, that was a spring summer league. Obviously, hockey was a fall winter thing. My boss came to me and he said, "Hey, if we have this, we're going to do it right. Do you want to call these games too?" I said, "Absolutely." So as soon as the hockey season would end, I would go right to doing the arena football. I was actually on the sidelines at our arena football team's practice facility when I saw a tweet that Randy Moeller, who did the radio play-by-play for the Panthers before I did, that he was moving over to the television side. So naturally, as a guy in the minors trying to climb the ladder, I'm thinking, okay, if that's the case, is the Panthers radio position going to be open? Sure enough, when I got home from work that day, it was. I sent my materials, sent my demo reel, had some conversations with the Panthers, and like I said, it would have been mid-August of 2015 that I was fortunate enough to get the opportunity with the Panthers, and like I said, it's been an absolute dream come true.
What does that interview process look like when you interview for a play-by-play announcer? Like, is it just like, here's my work, here's my demo reel? Just curious.
It probably varies from place to place. I had a handful of conversations, sent along my demo reel, and I think that's one of the things too is, everybody can send along a demo reel, and it's so easy now. You just send a link. I remember when I first started applying for jobs, you had to burn everything onto a CD, and then you had to hope that when that CD got to wherever it was going, that it would be formatted correctly to play on the person's CD drive, which was, you just fingers crossed, hope that it would. But when I applied for the Panthers job, I had it all on like a YouTube link and just fired it off. And, obviously that's a big part of it. And, then it was going into talking about all the different things have changed in the whole broadcast world, obviously. And yeah, the broadcast is important, but there's so many other things that we do with a sports team, whether it's, things out in the community or, social media presence. Now my friend and I, who I work with, we're in year 6 now of the official Panthers podcast. I mean, I think our last episode we just recorded was our 277th episode. We joke that podcast has finished kindergarten because it's about to turn 6 years old. So it's something that's been growing over the years, and just in terms of contributing across the board any way that I can. Coming up through the minors, I was fortunate enough to be able to do a lot of different things, help in a lot of different areas of the business. And it was something that, that was something that I think helped me in getting the job here with the Panthers.
I'm glad that you touched on kind of some of the other things that you're working on, or like, for instance, the podcast. Congratulations on that. That's phenomenal. I wasn't aware that you had a podcast. What is like what does game day look like for you? Like, when does it start and when does it end, and what happens leading up to it?
Well, we always joke that during the season, there are only 2 days of the week. There, for most people, there's, Monday through Sunday. For us during the season, there's game day and there's non-game day. Those are really the 2 days of the week. Sometimes you get game day a couple days in a row. Sometimes you have a couple non-game days in a row. But for us, a typical game day, get up in the morning, go over to morning skate, especially for a home game. I'll use home game as an example. Go over to morning skate. That's when we get, our interviews for the pregame show. I chat with our head coach, Paul Maurice, for every game, a one-on-one, and he's absolutely outstanding. And so we get all of our interviews in the morning, and then I would say that the actual game preparation kind of starts the night before. Everybody prepares their own way. For me, I like to sit down before I go to bed the previous night and just buckle down for, an hour and a half and just jot everything down. That's if we're not playing a back-to-back and, time allows for that. But I like to just jot everything down the night before for a game. Like, for example, at the time we're recording this, we play the Bruins tomorrow. I obviously am very familiar with the Boston Bruins, so that's just going to be more of a refresher. Whereas our last couple of games at the time of this recording, we played Edmonton, we played Anaheim. Those are Western Conference teams that we don't see all that much, just twice a year. So sometimes a lot of time passes between games against those teams. So there's a little bit more of a refresher that's involved and a little bit more preparation that might need to take place. But everybody's got their own method. I jot everything down, and I like to, come back from morning skate, cut the sound, send it off to the radio station so the producer in the studio has it for that night. And then because I don't like to rush, I like to have everything in order. And then when I get to the arena, get there around for a 7:00 game, I'll usually get to the booth around 4:00 or so. Make sure we're connected. Make sure that technically everything is up to snuff, and then and which it always is. But stuff can happen. I just like to be prepared. We like to test our lines so that our our connection down to the locker room works, so we can do our player interview after the first period, stuff like that. So just like to make sure everything's in order, and then if there's anything else that happens, I'm able to be on top of it, or if there's anything else to do at the arena to assist with anything, in the lead up to the game, I can do that. But that's it. I would say I probably spend as much time preparing for an average game when you break it all down between the actual preparation, the studying aspect, and the cutting all the audio and things like that. Probably spend as much time preparing for every game as the actual game takes.
Wow. I mean, it doesn't shock me. I mean, that is interesting. So in the preparation part of it, you obviously take that very seriously. You put a lot of time into it. Do you have any sort of, I don't know, call it like a ritual or a superstition, maybe like a pregame meal that you kind of always do? Or I'm just curious. Anything around that?
Yeah, I mean, I like to we have our press room meal at home and on the road, which is always really nice that that we have that. So that's always good, and it's always there to just run down and grab something. So that's really cool. But I like to always make sure I get a workout in on a game day. I try to just a workout, and be able to, while that's for 45 minutes to an hour, be able to flip on something like your show, or the Sirius XM NHL channel, so I can just get hear about some of the other stuff that goes on outside of our game that day. That kind of helps in the preparation. I'm listening to that all the time in the car too. It's kind of just I guess a sort of an ancillary part of my game prep is listening to the NHL network radio channel on Sirius XM. But I think I like to make sure I get 45 minutes to an hour every day to listen to something else, go and run for a little bit, just kind of, even if you have the opportunity. I know game days can get busy, the days can get away from us at times, but even if it's first thing in the morning, or if it's right after morning skate, if I have a chance, I just like to have a little bit of time to just kind of disconnect, even for 45 minutes, and then head back to the arena and buckle down.
There we go. Nick and I talk a lot about how we're Boston fans through and through, all the different sports teams, including the Bruins. And you referenced the Bruins. What are your fondest memories working for the Panthers? And I have a feeling, which is why I'm bringing up the Bruins, where you may go with this, but any memories that really stand out to you?
Well, I gotta tell you, the fans in Boston, passionate. I love seeing that across the league, and I just admire any fan base that is passionate about the team. And fortunately, across the National Hockey League, every single arena has just a great atmosphere. We'll tell anybody, if you haven't been out to an NHL game in a long time, go check it out, because it's just a lot of fun, whatever your closest NHL team is. Fondest memories with the Panthers. Well, I mean, first of all, look no further than last spring. We had a run to the Cup final that was just incredible. The Panthers were 7-0 in overtime games in those playoffs. So right there, you've got 7 games where you had the ultimate in drama in sports, Stanley Cup playoff overtime. the first round series against Boston. I don't want to open up old wounds here for
You
you.
can do it. We can take it. We're big boys.
But well, I mean, you had so many twists and turns in that series from the Panthers. We went to Boston for Game 5, down 3-1. Matthew Tkachuk scores the overtime goal to win Game 5, send the series back to Florida, and it was everybody, a lot of people have seen the video. It was one of those things that just sets apart those athletes that have just that it factor. And I'd say Matthew's one of those guys that has that. But there's the video that everybody saw after that, where he looked around the room and said, remember this room, we're coming back for Game 7.
Mm-hmm.
Game 6 here in Florida was wild. I think it was a 6-5 game. That was a crazy one, but the Panthers forced Game 7. And then Game 7 in Boston, you talk about just kind of I guess symbolic of that whole series. It had all the ups and downs of the whole series into one Game 7, and Brandon Montour scored with just under a minute to go to force overtime. So now you've got Game 7 overtime, and that building got pretty quiet after Brandon scored that tying goal to force overtime, and it was quiet all the way through that intermission. And the Panthers came out much like they did the whole second half of the season. I mean, they were playing with their backs against the wall, fighting for a playoff spot for those last couple of months. And they came out comfortable and confident. And that was something that really became, and that's some things that you really get to appreciate, doing what I do when you're around the team as much as you are, you see this team just developed an ability to be confident and comfortable when most people would not be comfortable. And sometimes in the playoffs, that's what you have to do is being comfortable in uncomfortable spots. But Game 7 on the road, down a goal late, they force overtime. Carter Verhaeghe scores the series clincher. And then from there wasn't even time to go back to Florida. We went right to Toronto for round 2 and then won the first 3 games of that series and ended up winning it in 5. And then Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final, I could, if I'm fortunate enough to do this for 50 years, people could ask me, when I'm 75 years old, what's the most memorable game you've ever called? And there's a chance that Game 1 of the 2023 Eastern Conference Final might still be it. It was the 6th longest game in NHL history, went till the very late stages of the 4th overtime. And of course, it was Matthew Tkachuk who scored that overtime winner. A lot of people thought maybe we were ticketed for a 5th overtime. And if I'm being totally honest, not once during that game did I think about me being tired, my voice being tired, anything like that. The only thoughts outside of hockey I had was it had been like 8 hours since I ate a meal. I was getting hungry by that.
Yeah,
point.
you had gone to the gym a couple hours, like
Right,
eight hours before. You needed like protein.
I was getting hungry, but yeah. I was like all of us. So I was in it to win it. Never once did I, and then we get the text from our team services department, saying when the bus would be leaving the arena. And I think it said first bus back to the hotel at 2:45 a.m. Never thought I'd see that, but that just shows how late or I should say how early into the morning that game went. But That's what the Stanley Cup playoffs are all about. And to be able to see that team come together the way that it did, the way that everything just came together during that playoff run. And it's an experience that's going to benefit everybody, for many years to come. Panthers are going to be good for many years to come. It was a really special spring, and to be able to see that team go through that, it was something special.
Yeah, that's great. Good for you guys.
And the other thing I should say too, like I know I just went on a lot about last spring, that playoff run, rightfully so. But early in my time here, we had Jaromir Jagr and Roberto Luongo, who are both all-time greats. And I can tell you, it was one of the first things I ever noticed working in the National Hockey League. You see these guys that stayed at such an elite level for so long. And when you see these guys every single day, you get an appreciation for, even on the non-game days, the preparation, the dedication, everything that goes into it. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of talent there, and these guys were always extremely talented. But when you see the dedication, the work ethic, there's a reason that the best of the best players in everything stay at that level, for so long. Every guy to get to this level, it requires a crazy amount of work ethic, dedication, preparation. But to see what Jaromir Jagr and Roberto Luongo, what they were still doing, at that point in their careers, it was really cool. It was really special, and you can see it on TV. Hey, those are great players, but when you see them every single day and you see them at practice and things like that, you're like, okay, that's why these guys have been so good for so long.
Very cool. Very cool. So, Doug, this is obviously a sports card podcast, and
Yep.
one of the coolest, reasons we wanted to have you on is I know that you're a collector personally, which is pretty interesting because you work in the business really, and you're also a collector. I wanted to ask, how did you get into sports cards? What do you like to collect personally? And what are some of the, I don't know, what are some of the best things that you have, or some of the cards you're most proud of?
Well, yeah. So that's what I was mentioning is on the road, I'm on the plane a lot. So I'm always looking for podcasts, and I tend to look for sports card podcasts and hobby podcasts first. So I still remember my first pack of cards. I had at some point told my grandma that I wanted to get some baseball cards when I was 4 years old. And so my grandma had gone to the grocery store and she said, you said you wanted some baseball cards. And she handed me, remember the cello packs where you could see through the top and the old top cello packs?
Yep.
She
Oh
hands
yeah.
me a cello pack of 89 Tops baseball. I do not remember who was in that pack other than I remember thumbing through it. And I said, I didn't get any Tigers. So that was the only thing I remember from that cello pack of 89 Tops. And then not long after that, I remember being at 7-Eleven and they had 1990-91 Pro Set hockey on the counter by the register. And I remember my dad getting me a couple of packs at 7-Eleven that day. And I think it just kind of snowballed from there. And then my dad and I started collecting when I was a kid, early 90s. I'm sure a lot of us remember all the same sets from that era. We probably all collected. And I know that the stuff from that era, I know that a lot of it didn't necessarily hold the value that we all hoped it would, but there's still a crazy amount of nostalgia for everything from that point in time. So I was a huge card guy all the way up through my whole childhood, through high school. I also got really heavily into memorabilia and autographs like late 90s into the mid 2000s. Like a lot of people, once I got into the workforce, started working full time, especially with my job, traveling a lot. I was very much in and out of the hobby for a long time, and then eventually dove back in. I think a lot of people have a similar story in that regard. It's just you go really hard for a long time, and then life starts to happen, and then it maybe takes a backseat. I was never fully out of it. I'd still pick up a random piece here and there. I'd still keep my eye on it, if I was in different places and had a chance to see a card shop, things like that, I'd still stop in. But I knew that eventually, if I did go get back in, it was not going to be a dip your toe in the water thing. It was going to be a dive head first back in kind of thing. And that's where I am now. That was the direction I went a few years back, and it's been something that has been a real source of enjoyment for me. I have a lot of variety to my collection. I still collect a lot of the new stuff. For example, I just ripped a couple of hobby boxes of the new Topps Archives baseball. I think it's a really fun product. And we were out in San Jose recently, and the guys from Mojo Break have their shop there, and I've gotten to know them over the course of the last couple of years. Really good guys, just outstanding people, and they have a nice store in Santa Clara. So it's happened twice now, so I can say it's a tradition. When we go to San Jose, as long as we have an off night the night before the game, I'll stop in their store. And I don't rip a ton of wax, but that'll be like my annual wax pilgrimage, and I'll pick up some stuff from them. I still jump into a couple of breaks here and there with those guys from Mojo Break. There's a new Upper Deck hockey product coming out this week at the time we're doing this, so I might just grab the Panthers in one of those just to see what I can get there. But I like to collect some of that stuff, but I still tend to, and I think listening to you guys a lot, I think you guys are probably in the same lane, but I like to have some of the new stuff. I like to, I just like to get some of the new stuff. It's fun. It's fun to occasionally open some packs. I like to get at least something of a lot of the current rookies across all the different sports. I'm interested in all of it, but I tend to go back to the classics more than anything. And maybe it's, you see cards that when I was 11 years old, it was just a picture in the Beckett magazine. And to me, it was something that was unattainable. I'm never going to be able to get that card. But then you become an adult and you maybe have the means to go out and conquer some of those old collecting dreams that you had from back when you were a kid. So I've got like a handful of things. I actually have some of my stuff out right next to me here.
Oh, cool.
So just to show you the variety, like right here, this was like the card I was looking for the most at the National. And it's from 2022 Panini Impeccable WWE. It's numbered to 99 Hulk Hogan auto. So
that's awesome.
Yes.
I was Hulk with the boa.
With the boa.
Yeah, it's amazing.
He put the Hulkster autograph on it, which he doesn't always do apparently. So I was looking for that one. That was one that I really liked, and so I was looking for that card. This is a nifty one right here.
Oh, near and dear to our hearts for sure. We've got
SGC7 Jordan rookie. So, this is, to me, that's on the Mount Rushmore of cards all time. I think I speak for anybody in our age bracket. It might not be the most valuable card, but this is the card.
Oh yeah,
the Griffey.
Yeah,
the Griffey rookie. Upper Deck.
The most beautiful baseball swing ever.
Yeah. The 89 Upper Deck Griffey it's the card.
Oh, with the beautiful white border.
I remember that.
There are 397 million of those cards.
Yeah, that's okay. Sorry.
It's still the
we
card.
all need one.
Yeah, it's like an instant flashback. It's like, bam, I'm 10. It's like amazing.
Yeah, there's that. Here's a Gretzky Topps.
Oh, that's nice.
That's another Rushmore card right there. The
Gretzky rookie got a 6. That's beautiful.
Gretzky Beckett 6 Topps rookie. These are super fragile cards, as everybody knows. So, and then I've gotten into some of the. Oh, here's one. This was a kind of a grail card for me. Not like a super expensive card or anything, but it's a surprisingly rare card. 2012 Upper Deck Goodwin champions, the Joey Chestnut autograph.
Oh yeah, Joey Chestnut, the goat, man.
Oddly enough, that card, if you look at the pop reports between like the big four grading companies, I don't even know if there's been like 35 of those graded. It's an oddly rare card, and I was shopping around for it for a while, and I just. The big Joey fan.
Oh, how could you not be? That guy's legendary. That's awesome. I might need to pick one of those up. I think you've inspired me on that one. That's really cool. That's really cool.
It's like I said, it's not a crazy expensive card, but there's definitely a sneaky rarity factor to that card. And so I had to jump on one at one point when I saw that it was already slabbed up. I was like, okay, I'm gonna grab this. So
talk to us about the process leading up to that, because that is a very interesting, rare card. Like, how did you even get the idea that you wanted to chase and find a Joey Chestnut card? Were you looking at pop reports and you're like, ooh, this could be an opportunity? I'm just curious.
So with that, if I recall correctly, so I mean, like all of us, every 4th of July, I watch him just dominate the field. And so
world-class athlete.
As time went on, every year you'd watch him just go out and do his thing, and it's fun, it's exciting. He's a guy that everybody's gonna always remember as a great in his area. There was a documentary I watched that just kind of furthered my interest in getting a Joey Chestnut card, and then I just kept watching them online, and I kept shopping around for them, and I would see that these cards that they weren't like, we're not talking about a card that's 10 or 15 bucks. Like, they all go for, at least $100 or so. And I'm like, these cards these people bid on these. These cards get some traction when they get put on eBay. And I looked up the pop reports, and it's just not a card that is at all that plentiful. So it got me to the point where I was thinking like, okay, I've got to really start trying to get one of these, because I feel like there are a lot of people like me. If you're buying that card, I don't know, maybe you're buying it to flip the card next 4th of July. I'm sure there are people that do that, but there are also, whenever you're dealing with a card that isn't accessible every single day, or that doesn't come up at auction every single day, doesn't matter if it's a $10 card or a $10,000 card, it makes you think like, okay, the next time one of these come up for auction, maybe I need to just buckle down and get the thing. And that was what I did. Like I said, between PSA, SGC, Beckett, and now CGC, I don't even know if they've graded 35 or 40 of those cards. It might even be a number lower than that. And I feel like we're at a point now where, especially after the last few years, mm-hmm. everything's been graded. It feels like, anything that was made before 2020. And this could be another tangent we go on, but when I go to a card show and I see a big card from 2010 to 2019 that's not slabbed, I've got to honestly ask why that card's not graded, because I feel like everything got graded that was made during that time period. Right. So, I feel like for that card, a pop report's probably pretty accurate. If it's a relatively low number, I feel like once you got into the 2020 2021 time period, anybody who had that card, who was aware of what they had, would have sent that off, because there were far lesser cards being graded, as we all know. We see them in dollar bins all the time now. So it's a card that, like I said, I knew just wasn't coming up for auction every day. They're still on eBay, buy it now, things like that when you want to get them. But yeah, that was one that I was really excited to grab when I got it.
Yeah, I can tell. Yeah, it's interesting. Just the story alone, it's really interesting with that card. So this, you're doing a lot of research, right? Even just this example of the Joey Chestnut card. Curious, especially in your line of profession, right? You seeing all these different NHL teams every night. Do you kind of look at these teams and think about even like prospects that eventually, because you see them so often, like, are there any like rookies that you have a better eye on than certainly the rest of us, because you're seeing them constantly? I'm just curious, like, do you chase after rookies and prospects in the NHL at all?
So I would say, oddly enough, when it comes to hockey cards, most of the hockey that I'm buying or that I would look to buy, is older hockey stuff. I love the vintage hockey, and any of the newer hockey stuff I get is probably because it's a Panthers card, or maybe it's a player that I at some point had a chance to be around, or a guy that played for us at some point in time. Those might be the ones that I'm most likely to look at. For example, I don't have it not in this box, but I have a cool like Matthew Tkachuk SPX RPA out of 99 that I picked up, and I've got some pretty cool Alexander Barkov autographs and stuff I picked up. For me, it's like you pick up kind of mementos. These are players that years down the road I'm going to remember that these cards are going to remind me of all the great games that I saw these guys play, and and I can also speak for all of us here. We're very fortunate here. We have an absolutely just really engaging, really approachable, high character group of players here that are just really fun to be around every single day. So, anybody in that lineup, any of the Panthers that I've had a chance to be around, we've been around a lot of really nice guys here, and it just makes you want to go, and when you have a chance, when you stumble across something, pick up a card of a guy. Because it reminds me of, when this, like I said, some of the great games, some of the nostalgia. I think at the end of the day, that's probably why a big reason we collect anything we collect is nostalgia. But like I said, it's cool to have cards of the players that I get to see every day, the guys that I've seen, develop, from young guys, develop into stars. I picked up, I have a cool Sergei Bobrovsky RPA that I picked up, at some point over the last year. I just like to have, one or two cards of a lot of the guys that I've had a chance to be around. So a lot of the new hockey I collect is Panther inspired. That being said, like, I know I do get to see a lot of these guys play in person. I get to, I see every team play, but I would tell anybody, if you're looking for a guy to be excited about, a guy to PC, things like that, there's so much video out there. And in every sport, the games are so accessible now that, whether it's highlights or watching full games, If you want to scout the next guy that you're gonna build a PC of, you have endless video at your fingertips to go and find the guy whose game excites you, whose cards you want to collect.
Mm-hmm.
It's so refreshing. Just the words like memento and memory and how that applies to collecting, because you get a lot of the flippers and the prospectors, and it's just like, oh, his card's down $50 this week, and this guy hurt his thumb, and now his card's going down, and it's just madness. Like, it's just crazy. At the end of the day, like, we're collecting something for a reason, or we think it's cool or whatever. And every one of the things that you have, it seems like you have a reason behind them, or a reason to have them and collect them, which I think is awesome. I think more people should collect that way.
Well, at the end of the day, collect what you like is the oldest phrase in this whole thing, and I think that if a guy, it's sports, there might be injuries, things happen. If a guy being out 4 to 6 weeks is going to make that card anymore, then maybe you shouldn't have bought that card. I don't know. At the end of the day, maybe we should collect what fuels us, what gets us excited. I realize everybody's in it for different reasons, and I would never tell somebody not to. I'm all for everybody having different reasons why they're in the hobby. I think saying that, I'm never going to sit here and say that why somebody collects is the wrong reason, because I think you need all that coming together to form the whole ecosystem. I think it just all blends together. You can't have an entire hobby of people doing it the exact same way. That's not going to be fun for anybody. It's one of the coolest things is being able to talk to different people about their collections. And I could meet somebody, and we could both have been collecting cards for years and years and years, and we could literally not have the same card in our collections. We could have two totally different collections, but we can still sit there and speak the same language and understand what we're both talking about. And I think that's one of the coolest things too. It brings us together. It's like how I found you guys, listening to a podcast, looking for card content. And I know you guys collect a lot of really cool stuff. Your autograph sets, everything like that I listen to that, and I just I'm in awe of some of the stuff that you guys have been able to get. But it just it makes, like I said, that just brings it all together. It forms a community, if you will. I think it's really cool.
Love it.
No, you hit the nail on the head with that. You're a listener, so you know me and Nick talk about it all the time. It's the relationships, it's the community, it's the experience. Getting the chance to meet great people like you. I mean, it's exactly why we are involved, me and Nick, and it sounds like you the same, Doug. For the audience, Doug's IG is actually a really good one to follow. It's kind of a very eclectic. Certainly, he's got the Florida Panthers content on there, but he's also got a lot of other content. And I saw a few different posts, Doug, of you getting involved with Fanatics and doing a couple posts there. Can you just what's going on there? How'd you get connected with them? And just curious what's going on.
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to do a number of things on the side with them, and it's been a lot of memorabilia breaks. We've been doing some of that stuff going back sporadically over the last couple of years, and great people there. And I have a friend there who he's been with them for a while, and everything I do with them is it's on the side, and they've been nice enough to bring me out to the National the last couple of years to do some of the stuff at their booth, which has been really cool. But a couple of years back, they were looking for somebody to host some breaks online, and somebody who had a little bit of comfort on air, but also who knew the hobby lingo and could speak the hobby language. And they're 15 minutes down the road from where I am right now. So it just all lined up correctly. And that's been so much fun, whether it's been stuff that we've done, like I said, right here locally at their building about 15 minutes from here, or if it's been going to Chicago or Atlantic City with them for the National. It's been a ton of fun. And like I said, being able to do that. That's just been really cool on the side. And some of the stuff that we see come out of these boxes is awesome. And being able to get on there and, like I said, just be on the air, if you will, but do something totally different. That's been a lot of fun. So yeah, great people. Really thankful that I've had the chance to do some of that stuff, and you'll probably see me doing some stuff down the road too.
Oh, cool. Awesome. That was going to be my follow-up. I'm glad to hear that you're going to be doing more
And
stuff.
obviously during the hockey season, it gets tough with my schedule too. Working it in, fitting it in. That's why during the summer there was a good amount of stuff during the summer and the national, everything like that. But yeah, I'm sure we'll be fitting some stuff in down the road when we can.
Nice. That's
Excellent.
great.
Yeah, it's cool to see what Fanatics is just doing in the hobby. I think it's amazing the way that they're publicizing this. I mean, I think we had like the first commercial, for Tops, like a television commercial. Pretty amazing stuff. It's kind of cool to watch. We'll see what happens with it all, and I think you being a part of it's pretty fun.
And yeah, like I said, I'm not in the meetings. I go when I go there when they ask me, and I kind of just go along with I'm not in the high level meetings or anything like that. I'm hired to go and do the work when needed. But I can speak just as a collector. I love that they've tried new things with a lot of stuff. I some of the chases that have been put into some of the products, and some of the personal tie-ins that they've made as chases in some of these products. I love some of the new stuff that's out there. And that's the other thing I would tell, and I think there's some other people on different podcasts, because I listen to a number of them, who've said something similar. But hey, if there's something that gets put in that's something new, maybe you're not crazy about it. We also need to realize not everything is made for each one of us individually. It's about getting new people into the space, into the hobby. And there are going to be things that you love. There are going to be things that maybe just don't resonate with you, but that might resonate with somebody else. And at the end of the day, the more people that we can get interested in all this is better for all of us. I don't want the hobby to just stay where it is. I want it to grow, and I love that's what Fanatics is trying to do too.
Exactly. All right, so Doug, we have our final question for you. You listen to the pods, you probably know what's coming, but
I think I know what's coming, and I've been wavering on this for a while. Exactly what direction I want to take. But okay,
all right,
I'm ready.
Yeah, it's the coffee question. If you could get a coffee, sit down for an hour or two with any sports player, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
So I think I've had a hard time narrowing it down to one, but among the tops on that list, Chris Jericho. I just think he's had I've read one of his books, and he was always, my favorite wrestler. And he's done the music thing. He has a successful podcast. He's one of those guys that you just wonder, okay, how does this guy ever have time to sleep? But at the same time, if you read his book, he's got such an interesting story. He was traveling to all ends of the earth to make it work in the wrestling world, ended up being really successful there, and then loved music. Hey, I'm going to do the music thing. He has a band that tours, that plays festivals, that plays shows. He has this podcast that has a wide listenership. He's always, posting on social. And again, you wonder, okay, are there like 4 Chris Jerichos? How does he have time to do all this stuff? But I just think it's a really cool story about somebody who's had a lot of dreams and a lot of passions and turned them into a reality. And I think at the end of the day, we can all look at stuff like that, and we all have ideas. What's holding you back from putting those ideas into motion? And I think he's been a guy that's been able to show that. And if that name might not even resonate to a lot of people if you haven't watched any wrestling over the years, but he pops up all over the place. He's kind of transcended wrestling in some ways. But he would be one. Shaquille O'Neal would be another. I just think sitting down and having coffee or having lunch with Shaq, I think you'd probably leave that conversation just thinking like that was one of the coolest conversations I've ever had. I feel like we see him on TNT doing the NBA stuff, and I feel like if it's anything like that, and he's always been one of my main card PC. He was the first player I ever collected. He's kind of what elevated my basketball fandom. I saw him pull the backboard down in 1992 on TV and remember thinking that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. I like that guy. And so I think he'd be right there on that list too. But yeah, I think those are the 2 names that I was racking my brain with this, and I couldn't get past those two. They would probably be right there at the top. And I don't know that you've had a Chris Jericho mention yet on this.
We have not. I'm a huge fan of Chris Jericho. I think he was super entertaining. I didn't realize he had a book, so thank you. I'm going to probably
he's got a couple of them. I'm actually behind.
I just wrote that down too. The book. Yeah.
I need good audiobooks, so that's perfect. I'm going to check it out. I'm excited. I think so. That's great.
I think the theme around the two that you brought up is what they did after their career. Both of those guys, right?
Yeah.
Very hardworking, bit of entrepreneurial spirit in them, and just trying different things. Both of them, they get their hands in everything.
And for guys that, especially in the case of Shaq, who defines larger than life figure, guys that do seem, despite accomplishing a great deal of success, who seem pretty down to earth and who seem pretty approachable. And again, they've accomplished a lot, and they've gotten into a lot of different things. And I think that's really cool. So yeah, those are the names that kept coming up. I've been racking my brain about this for like a week, trying to think, and those are the two guys that I couldn't think of anybody to bump them off.
I love it. That's great, Doug. So if anybody in the audience wants to hit you up about your collection, or who knows, maybe they just want to ask about, your team or what you do, what's a good way for you to be found online?
Yeah, I'm always on there at Doug Plagans on Instagram. For the nature of my work, and Instagram's the one that I've tried to become more active on as time's gone on. And as you said, you'll probably notice you get on my Instagram. Some people start like a separate Instagram for cards, or they have like their personal and their professional. I just throw it all into one. I don't think I'm cut out for managing multiple Instagram handles, so I just put it all into one. So you're going to see stuff about the Panthers, you're going to see stuff about cards, you're going to see stuff about concerts I've gone to, you're going to see stuff about food that I try on the road. So you're going to get a number of different things there. So it's just at Doug Plagans on Instagram, DOUGPLAGENS. Also, on what used to be Twitter, on the now X, you can tweet me there, because I don't know of a synonym for tweet. So you can tweet me there at Doug Plagans, same thing. So I'm always there. I'm always on both. And if anybody's ever inclined, you can flip on one of our broadcasts on the Panthers app. It makes it so easy. There's a little button that says radio in the top corner. You just hit that and off you go. But you can, I always tweet out the different places to listen every single game. So that's all there. The NHL app makes it easy to listen to. So if anybody's ever so inclined, you can find me there 82 nights a year plus playoffs.
You got it. Excellent. Well, thank you, Doug. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it. This was really cool for me. Just I didn't know what a big collector you were, kind of behind the scenes.
Yeah, I'm always keeping my eye on it, and on the plane sometimes, when I'm not listening to a podcast, or while I'm listening to a podcast, I'm draining my phone battery, just going back to all my eBay searches and things like that. When I'm not preparing for a broadcast, that's usually what I'm doing in my free time, is just shopping for whatever the next purchase is going to be. So I can't thank you guys enough. Like I said, I'm always looking for new hobby content, stumbled across you guys. You guys speak my language on a lot of this stuff. I know you guys collect the classics too. That's always awesome. And I just appreciate a lot of the different stories, and you guys have a really good dynamic. So congratulations on the early success with your podcast, and keep up the good work. And thanks again for having me.
Thank you so much, Doug.
Thanks, Doug.